Diabetes is an epidemic worldwide now. In the United States, in Europe, in much of Asia, we are seeing more and more of it. It's exploding now in China and even in India. The old-fashioned idea was that because diabetes means there's too much sugar, that is glucose, in the blood, people have thought, well, okay, maybe that means I should not eat sugar, and maybe it comes from eating too much bread or other carbohydrates because when they digest, they release sugar into the blood. It turns out that that is not the cause. And the first inclination that we had that that could not be the cause was when we looked at traditional cultures. I'm talking about Japan and China, who were not yet westernizing their diets. Mm-hmm. They were eating lots of rice and noodles, very high carbohydrate diets, but they had almost no diabetes. Mm. And as soon as fast food changed, more dairy products, and started to reduce their intake of rice, their diabetes rates started to go up. In Japan in 1980, the diabetes rate in adults over the age of 40 was only about 1 to 5%. That's rare, but that was 1980. And that's when McDonald's and Burger King and fast food chains started all coming in to Japan. By 1990, the rate of diabetes was 11 to 12%. Oh. So in 10 years' time, it shot way, way up. So we now know the cause of diabetes. And there are, as you know, different forms. The type 2 diabetes is the most common. Mm-hmm. And the cause is not eating rice or any other carbohydrate. The cause is the buildup of microscopic particles of fat inside the cells, especially the muscle cells and the liver cells of the body. When your muscle cells accumulate these particles of fat, which comes from eating chicken or fish or beef or pork or cheese, those fat molecules build up. As they build up in the cells, they stop the cell from being able to absorb glucose from the blood. And so the blood glucose level rises. And it's not that there's a problem with eating starches or carbohydrates. The problem is your cells are filled with fat. Technically what happens is that fat stops the insulin hormone from being able to open up the cell to allow the glucose to enter. What scientists will say is intramyocellular lipid, that is fat inside the cell. Mm-hmm. What's the answer? The answer is, number one, get the animal products off your plate. On a plant-based diet, there is no animal fat left. Mm-hmm. Secondly, keep the fried foods and oily foods to a minimum, because if you really reduce fats, the fat comes out of the cell. The insulin starts working again. The cell can then take the glucose out of the blood. Your blood sugar falls. If you do this soon enough in life, your diabetes will go away. Mm-hmm. If it's later in life, it may not go away, but it will improve dramatically. You'll need less medicine, and you'll have less risk of any complications of this disease. Yes, it's funny. Anybody who adopts a plant-based diet soon discovers that everybody that they run into, their friends, their parents, the person at the store, their doctor, their priest, everybody, the person, who's at the local football club, everybody wants to know one thing: where do you get your protein? Now, I have to tell you, they don't even know what protein is, but yes, they're asking you about it anyway, and it's enough to give you a headache. Well, scientists have weighed in on this for decades, and the first thing is, you don't need to worry about protein at all. The reason that I say that is any varied vegan diet, by a varied diet, I mean a diet that has grains and beans and vegetables in it, provides all of the essential building blocks of protein, all the essential amino acids, and more than enough protein for all of your needs, including the needs of athletes. Mm-hmm. If you are a bodybuilder or a marathon runner, you will get more than enough protein from plant foods, so you don't need to worry about it. Now, in truth, the amount that you need, well, it might be about 10% of your calories or something like that, but I encourage people not to worry about it. Now, there are some people who just can't get this out of their minds. So what I encourage them to do is to get into their car and go down the highway to the nearest farm and ask the farmer to introduce them to the largest bull that they have, or to go to the nearest race course and ask the race course owner to introduce them to the fastest horse in the paddock. And what you can then point out is that those enormous animals are vegans. They get all their protein from plant sources. Then you can go to the zoo and ask to see the tallest giraffe and the biggest elephant and say, how did they get those massive bodies? Where are they getting their protein? And I want to tell you, they are not eating mozzarella cheese. They are not eating pork chops. They are not eating chicken wings. Those are vegan animals, and they are getting a massive amount of protein entirely from plant sources, and we will too. Many people imagine that human beings are carnivores. We are not. Much as we like to behave like carnivores, the truth is we are primates, great apes, which may not sound so complimentary, but it does tell us quite a few things about ourselves. We don't have those protruding canine teeth that a cat or a dog has. If you look in your mouth, your canine teeth are no longer than your incisors, and that change occurred at least 3.5 million years ago. Mm-hmm. And you might ask, how did meat eating ever begin? If we started out with a diet like a gorilla, where we were eating plant-based foods. I posed this question to Dr. Richard Leakey, L-E-A-K-E-Y, Dr. Richard Leakey, the famous paleoanthropologist. And he said, first of all, people are not carnivores and never were carnivores. But once the Stone Age gave us the capacity to make hatchets and arrowheads and spears and stone tools, and we were able to kill animals and remove the meat from the bones, we were able to become as if we were carnivores. Mm-hmm. But the fact of the matter is, our heart is still an herbivore's heart, meaning that if you eat meat and your cholesterol goes up, you get atherosclerosis, and you can have a heart attack. Your digestive tract is an herbivore's digestive tract, meaning if you put meat into it, you are at risk for colorectal cancer. Your body chemistry is that of an herbivore, and that's why people who follow a plant-based diet live longer, are thinner, are healthier, are more energetic. They cost a lot less in medical care. They feel better than people who eat meat. Well, I have to say that there has been a push on the part of the pharmaceutical companies to make medications, and it's a certain kind of medication that they want to make. They don't want to make an antibiotic that you take for 2 weeks and then you stop. They want to give you a cholesterol-lowering drug that you take forever, and diabetes drugs and hypertension drugs that you take forever, because those are moneymakers for them. However, I don't think these people are malicious. I think they simply don't recognize the power that healthy foods will bring. And I am seeing more and more doctors who are thrilled when a patient starts following a plant-based diet, because it means that patient will do well, will bring those same healthy habits to their family, and it means that they are taking care of their own health in a very, very important way. There will always be a role for doctors. There will always be a role for medications. But in my view, right now when you see the doctor will say, okay, if you have a high cholesterol problem or diabetes, medicines are conventional treatment, orthodox treatment. And if you decide you want to go vegan, they'll call that a bit alternative. Well, we should turn that around. Your cholesterol is high because of your diet. You have diabetes or a weight problem because of your diet. So addressing the diet should be conventional medicine. And then if you need a little more help because the diet didn't bring your weight all the way down or your diabetes isn't quite gone, then at that point, you might be able to use medicines as your alternative therapy.